Hey there everybody, Mazrock here, and today I've got two Vengeance Demon Hunter builds for you to be able to work with inside your Mythic Plus dungeon run. We're not really going to be talking raiding here. This is going to be more of a Mythic Plus focused Vengeance Demon Hunter video as well. I'm not going to be going deep into certain topics about Vengeance here because I am also going to be making a beginner's guide to Dragonflight Vengeance Demon Hunter, but I did want to get these two builds out here and all that fun stuff and kind of talk about some of their finer points. Before we do get started though, please do like, comment, subscribe. There's a Twitch link down below if you want to watch me stream. There's a Discord link if you want to join a wonderful community full of people and ask some questions. And I can't do this without my patrons. Thank you so much to all of my patrons for making that happen. If you wish to support me directly and get some free goodies, some early access stuff, there's a link down below for that. Alright, so Vengeance Demon Hunter. We're going to start with the Tanki build first, which is this right here. So let me move this over so you guys can see. So a couple of key factors with this build is we do go for Charred Warblades, although its healing is minimal. It is passive while you're still kind of learning the spec and getting into it, because Vengeance can be a little wonky to kind of understand how the burst healing can work and how to stay survivable. And this, you're just going to get some passive healing from keeping your immolation aura up as often as possible, as well as dealing whatever fire damage that you can, and there are some different means to do so. One of the things that I really like here is Aura of Pain. Increases your critical strike chance of immolation aura by 6%. And then if we go over to Volatile Flame Blood, we see the synergies with Immo Aura generates 5 to 10 Fury when it deals critical damage. Now, before you get your two-piece, you are going to feel a little Fury starved. This I found helped, but Fellblade on a 12-second cooldown, this is going to make you move a lot. So this is going to be one of those things where you're going to want to watch where you're facing when you use it. Maybe when you do a pull, turn around and go back to the way you came instead of completely forward, so you're not over pulling mobs. But this generates 40 Fury on a 12-second cooldown and can help before you get your two-piece. Once you get your two-piece, I found that Aura of Pain really kept everything going, and then once you get a high enough eye level, you could just drop this for something else that you may want or need. The Hunt is one of your more powerful abilities, but it's a little bit difficult to use as a tank because you always want to try and use it on like the last mob or the furthest mob away, so you go through things. But as a tank, everything likes to be right in your face, so this isn't always the easiest thing to use, but be aware of that. Now, a couple of things in the spec tree which makes this very tanky is we opt for Feed the Demon. So consuming a soul fragment reduces the remaining cooldown of demon spikes by 0.5 seconds. That's per soul fragment. So with this build and Calcified Spikes, which you take 12% reduced damage after demon spikes end, fading by 1% per second, and also the extended spikes here. There's so many different things that have the same icon. Increases the duration of your demon spikes by 2 seconds. So what happens here is you will actually have full uptime on demon spikes with this build, but it's also very important that you let demon spikes drops, because if demon spikes never drops, you never get calcified spikes. So with the rotation and the way that you're working things out, you use demon spikes on pull. The moment it drops, you get your other one going. So you will actually have calcified spikes and demon spikes up at the exact same time, allowing you to generate just more tankiness, right? We opt for Cheat Death here and Soul Crush. So Soul Crush, I mean, this is basically a no-brainer, right? Multiple applications of Frailty may overlap. Soul Cleave applies Frailty to your primary target for 5 seconds. Now, this is very good for getting very quick stacks of Soul Cleave onto tyrannical bosses. Because you want that Frailty to get up, and then you can time a proper Spirit Bomb to be able to get yourself a big hit after a Tank Buster. You don't necessarily need a defensive for every Tank Buster, but if you have the means to heal yourself back up, it's much like a Blood DK that's just pooling their runic power. They know they're about to get hit big, they hold on to it for a second or two, they get the hit, and then they immediately press the button and heal themselves back up, and you can work that with these massive these big Frailty spikes and things like that. Fodder to the Flame. One thing that I've seen a lot of Vengeance Demon Hunters doing is the moment this demon comes up, they immediately kill it as fast as they can, But this stays around for 25 seconds and deals 0 damage to you. It is not going to kill you. Hold on to it, okay? When you see it proc and you know there's a big hit coming, that's when you can be like, okay, it's coming in about 5 seconds, I'm holding onto this demon, let's go. And then the moment it happens, boom, you kill it with your throw glaive, or 2, because for some odd reason throw glaive on vengeance doesn't kill it instantly, which is dumb, but whatever. This is the world we live in. So that way you can just absolutely just re-crank yourself up with healing and just be a lot tankier. I have absolutely pulled 50, 60k HPS pulls with this. Painbringer is another big one. Consuming a soul fragment reduces all damage you take by 2% for 6 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap, and that's where the key factor comes in here. Just you're just compounding damage reductions with calcified spikes, with Painbringer, to just make you more tankier with this build. Now, another one that I've seen a lot is a lot of people opt for Soul Carver, and this is something you absolutely can do and will give you burst healing when you need it. But this is also can be a little clunky to use for newer demon hunters. So I actually opt for Soulmonger with this build. Consuming a soul fragment, when consuming a soul fragment would heal you above full health, it actually shields you up to 46,000 health. And while that does not seem like a lot, it actually does add up over time. This is kind of like a little mini ignore pain mechanic when you can kind of stay up on it. So all of this combined, I found I was incredibly tanky and had a lot of fun. There's not a whole lot of rotation tips with this, aside from with Dark Glare Boon. You have to time your Fell Devastations properly and make sure that you finish every single cast. Let it go off. And there are some times where I'm like, well, I'm just gonna get stunned here. The stun's not gonna go off before my Fell Dev can end, and it will end, but there's no way I can get out in time, even with Infernal Strike Hop. So I'm just gonna get stunned here because I want this to go off, because when your Fell Dev fully finishes channeling, it refreshes 20 to 40% of its cooldown and refunds a bunch of fury. So this talent here is going to allow you to be a lot more tanky, because you're going to get a lot more Fell Devs through in a run. And Fell Dev is one of your main sources of damage, a big source of healing, and a very good one of your only defensives that you got. You do have Metamorphosis and you do have Fiery Brand, but outside of those windows, you're relying on Fell Dev for big tanky hits. So this is something that you're going to have to be aware of and keep going. You can swap out some of these talents if you so choose. I mean, do so as you will, but this is one of the tankier builds that I have come up with and found and talked to and tweaked with people on Twitch and people in my Discord and things like that, because as you may know, I'm not a Vengeance Demon Hunter main, but I have really fallen in love with this spec over the course of the last few months. In Season 3, I started falling in love with it even more. Season 4, it just kind of... Season 3 and 4, Shadowlands, but now it's just kind of grown and become what it is. And I really, really like this. This is an incredibly tanky, fun build to play, but its damage is a little bit less than the Fiery Brand build that we're going to talk about. It's not out as all-out offensive, but is going to give you a lot more just general tankiness all around. And this is, you know, I was in 15s and 16s at item level 380 with this build, feeling very, very good. And I don't just mean Shadow Moon Burial or Court of Stars. I was doing, you know, Ruby Life Pools and things like that with this build. So, very, very fun. Lots of fun all around. And up next, we're going to talk about Firebrand. With the Fiery Brand build, nothing really changes on the spec tree side, although you can choose to opt out of Charred Warblades, like I said before. This is very minimal healing for 1 point, but it still is healing for 1 point, so weigh that as you will. There are some more optimal things that you can go and grab. But what changes here is here we opt out of Feed the Demon, Last Resort, or Cheat Death. We're not getting Painbringer, we're not getting Soulmonger. I know, that's, you know... We're losing a lot of tankiness here, but we're gaining a lot of damage, and we're gaining a lot of very tanky, bursty windows. So this is something that comes to time you can work with, but will increase how much you have to kite outside of these windows. So we go full Fiery Brand here. Fiery Brand also increases the fire damage you deal to the target by 40%. That's not a small amount. Burning Alive. Every 2 seconds, Fiery Brand spreads to one nearby enemy. Immolation Aura damage increases the duration of your Fiery Brand by 0.5 seconds. And Fiery Brand has a 15-second reduced cooldown and 1 additional charge. So this build here, you go from 1 Fiery Brand every 1 minute to 2 every 45 seconds, which means that you have the opportunity to spread Fiery Brand to an entire pole and be incredibly tanky during those windows where it's spreading and things like that, and you're also just dealing increased fire damage. And with that increased fire damage, you're actually seeing Shard Warblades see a little bit better, because a 40% increase to fire damage is an increase to the 3% of all fire damage you deal that's healing you back. So with Shard Warblades, you see a little bit of more synergies there, which is actually pretty nice. I found that Shard Warblades performs better with this build than the more tanky build, but this build here is all about going in and being as insane as possible, as quickly as possible, and not opting for fodder, not opting for cheat death, not opting for feed the demons. So with this one here, where you will not have full uptime on spikes, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to let spikes drop off, wait 3 to 4 seconds while calcified spikes is still doing its thing, because it's a 12% reduced damage, so it will stay up for 12 seconds. So you're still gaining some damage reduction there, but after 3, 4, 5 seconds, when it's going back down from 12 to 6, that's when you're going to want to hit your demon spikes again and cycle those through properly. Now, this, once I started getting into higher keys, definitely was noticeable on the squishiness. I was still cranking absurd amounts of damage, because Fel Devastation here, unleash the Fel within you, damaging enemies directly in front of you for fire damage. With your Fiery Brand active on that target, your Fel Dev gets more damage, your Immo Aura, everything kind of cranks up, and you definitely are just an offensive beast, and this is actually how I like to quest and do low-level keys, but this is definitely one where if you want to worry about if you're worried about your general tankiness and you don't just want to fall over, go with the first build, not this one. But this one here, if you are in a position where you know you are safe and you know it's an easy run and you should not die to anything, you're overgeared and you're helping a friend or whatever, this is an absolutely fun run to take. I am going to be posting both of these down in the comment section below, so if you just want to import these builds, you absolutely can. A couple of things to talk about. You want Sophic Devotion on both of your weapons, because right now there's some sort of bug. It never worked this way, but it seems to be, where whenever you proc one Sophic Devotion, the other one procs 2, and you double up on your agility, so you just get stupid amounts of your primary stat. This should be fixed at some point, I guess. I don't know. The file I have been opting for has been the file of Tepid Versatility, so that way you can just increase your general tankiness and damage all around. Don't avoid Critical Strike anymore. Well, you should have never avoided it, but it's not as bad as it may have been. In fact, in dungeons, Critical Strike may be better than Versatility, but what happens is right now with the new season, Critical Strike and Mastery are actually very easy to get, where Haste and Versatility have been a lot more difficult to get at the start. So you're going to want to kind of work around that and work with that. So Tepid Versatility is a great way to allow you to boost some of your haste and your critical strike, which Mastery isn't as important in Mythic Plus, but still not something that you totally want to just avoid at all cost. But Versatility is going to give you a nice chunk, and run with Druids whenever you can for a free 3%. So those are kind of what you got to worry about for stats and things like that. I put the haste runes, the howling runes, on both of my weapons as well as consumables. And of course, primary stat feast, always good, always strong, and things to go like that. So this build here is a lot of fun. Now, if you're going, oh, you didn't talk a lot about rotation, I am going to be doing that. There's a beginner's video coming, and we're going to be delving a lot deeper into kind of what you need to know about what makes Vengeance Demon Hunter tick, defensives, how the defensives work with what builds, and all of that fun stuff. But these are the two builds that I've been having a lot of fun with, depending on the dungeon, depending on what level of key the dungeon is, what affixes are, because, there are some affixes where, guess what, tanks just have an easy time. And then there's other ones, Fortified Bolstering, fortified raging, things like that, where those affixes suck on the tank, and you won't need increased tankiness for the end of a pull. So that is that. So there's some play around there. I have found that the fiery brand build served me great at a lower item level right up until I got into 15, 16s, and then I really started noticing the squishiness of it from here and there and playing around with it. So I still go into dungeons with fiery brand sometimes, but I'm a little bit more picky choosy on it. So with that, that is Vengeance Demon Hunter Mythic Plus. I got a beginner's guide coming, I promise. I am working on Druid and Monk right now too. With the new change to kind of how I've made everything, you guys have absolutely seen an uptick in daily content, but I am focusing a lot more on all 6 tanks as a whole instead of just focusing on one primary one. And we're going to be getting portals on all 6 tanks this season. That is the goal, but that means that I had to spread the love everywhere. But what that means for you guys is all 6 tank specs are getting love, guys. You're going to see content for all 6 of them. So thank you very much for listening to the end of this video. If you guys have any questions, there's that Discord link down below, and I can't do it without my patrons. Thank you again for that. So with that, I'll leave everyone to it. Happy tanking. Have a good one.